Welcome back to another episode of the All Tense Podcast. I'm Josh, he's Clay, and we're continuing the series on talking through the top frustrations that entrepreneurs and business owners that we work with encounter. And today we're tackling one that is quite popular, and that is when one of our dear entrepreneurs simply throws up their hands and says, nothing's working. Clay, what do you got to say?
Yeah, well, I think when nothing is working is like I love to hear it because that's probably not true. They're still around, right? It's mainly to me. So when I talk to someone, it's like, man, it's just not working. What they're really expressing is, I'm really frustrated by how it's working. This isn't how I want it to be working, and it's just this weird, complex problem that we get to uncover together. Because what's probably true is that a lot of things are working, and there's some things that really bother you that aren't working as well as they should. Mm-hmm. So the fun part is the solve. The hard part is the discovery. The fun part is the solve, right? And so I'll just share. I have a client, big operation, hundreds of team members, and the integrator at the company is high energy, high expectations, high everything. Whatever it is, he wants more of it, right? And that drive has propelled the organization to really good success, really good growth. And also he walks around every day just kind of a little bit more frustrated than he needs to be, because he wants perfection. And so, to be blunt, part of the work is to talk about delegation and saying, like, hey, listen, you can't do it all. I mean, you could, but you have kids and a wife and obligations outside of work that need some of your time and love too. And so you can't do it all and have a life outside of it. Even if you didn't have a life outside of it, there's literally 300 people that work for this company. You couldn't do all the jobs. So are you willing to let go? That's the first question. Second question is, how do we get all of those things in your head that make up the idea of what perfect is and get them down into systems or scorecards or the vision of what the company is going to look like in 10 years so that everybody knows what good looks like? And that's the real work, right? Of like every time something comes up, identifying the root cause of his frustration and then working on that bit a little bit, right? Sometimes the frustration comes from a process that wasn't followed and we got to make it easier. Or sometimes the frustration comes from well, no one knew because it was just in your head, and that's a visioning issue. Or there's a report that doesn't have all the data they want. That's a scorecard or a data issue that we've just got to tweak and set the right. It's really just, this is the one that is the most nebulous, right? When someone says nothing's working, then we got to figure out what that means.
Yeah,
right?
I want to take it back to the top of the pod, and you said something there that is very poignant in that, when someone says nothing's working, it's like, okay, time out. First, before we even get into the nuts and the bolts of tools or disciplines, we're dealing with an emotional issue here, because that's simply a hyperbolic statement. It's not true, right? So the first thing with those people is, well, first, to get them more in a positive frame of mind, let's talk about some things that are working, because I don't believe that nothing's working, right? So let's talk about those. Great. Then it's easy to separate, well, all right, now we can talk about what truly isn't working rather than making that blanket statement. So just getting that world divided and getting people to recognize that, and then you can start to tackle that list, I think is pretty critical there, from getting to that emotional, hands in the air, hopeless or endlessly frustrated comment of nothing's working.
Yeah, 100%. There's the thing that I love the most about EOS. Let me make sure this is true before I say it. One of the things that I like the best about EOS is that it kind of forces you to do this thing of celebrating at some point along the way, because it's really easy as an entrepreneur to fall into the trap of nothing's working, because heavy is the head, right? That wears the crown. Like, I think it's, I don't know, some presidential autobiography, I don't remember who, but kind of just said, like, when you're sitting at the desk, when you're sitting in the Oval Office, like, they don't come in every day to tell you all the things that are going right. They come in to tell you all the problems that need to be solved. And guess what? They're the problems that none of the other people in the organization could fix. Like, you're just getting the hardest problems, the biggest issues coming across the desk. So it's easy to feel like it's not working because that's all you hear about. And so, anyway, the thing that I like the most about US is that as a leadership team, we're getting together, setting goals for the company, for the team, creating this 90-day world where we're working really hard to propel the organization forward. And then every 90 days getting together to be like, oh, look what we did. That was pretty good. Like, we might not have gotten every goal 100%, but we got 4 out of 5 or 6 out of 9 or whatever the numbers are, and celebrate the things that we did do, and then look at, with clarity, the things that remain, and tackle them again in the next 90 days, right? And so, like, there's like a real intentionality to the pacing and the focus of EOS that forces us as entrepreneurs to not be so hard on ourselves, which I think is actually one of the big blessings of the system. Does that make sense?
100%. You know, and nothing's working. Also, as with all things, we'll see it manifest itself in different ways across different clients. So one client's nothing's working is, well, they're trying shortcuts, you know, quick fixes, you know, the weekend seminar, and oh, well, that didn't work, right? And then, you know, I've seen another side of nothing's working. It's because they're throwing everything at the wall all at once. You know, you've got your marketing team running tests in every single channel all the time, and they're overwhelmed, and you know, there's not even time enough to get to statistical significance to figure out what is working and what isn't, right? You panicked, and now we're just throwing everything out there. So also, that's another one of those phrases that when I hear it, I have to stop and say, okay, what's really behind that? And what are you really saying when you're saying nothing's working? And
Right.
there's different versions of that and different ways of tackling it.
Yeah. So for our listeners who are at that point in their entrepreneurial journey where they feel like nothing's working, take a deep breath. A bunch of stuff is probably working pretty well. Part of the work that we do, and we've either Josh or I, right, Josh? I mean, you'd be happy to talk to somebody if they felt like nothing was working. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. Part
Right
of that is
now.
just getting perspective. Yeah, maybe we should do a live call-in show.
Yeah.
Live call-in podcast, the nothing working call-in show. Anyway, but take a deep breath. There's a lot of stuff that's working. The trick is like figuring out what's causing that frustration and then just going to work and fixing it. So before we wrap up here, Joshy, any nuggets on the nothing's working? I'm gotta be honest, I'm having trouble coming up with a nugget on nothing's working.
I can hit you with two, you know, and one of them is, you know, we'll play off the word nothing. Well, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So we're willing to try
Good one.
something new. And another one, I'll steal it from the real estate world. I remember, you know, one time going around looking at houses with the real estate agent, and they said, you know what the best word in real estate is? Next. And if you're in your business and you've tried something and you've given it a go and it hasn't worked out, great. Learn from it and then let it go. Next.
There we go. On that note, I think it's time we wrap this bad boy up. We're really so appreciative for everyone who's listening to our podcast. We love hearing from you. If you have ideas for future episodes, please let us know. Either way, though, please rate the podcast on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a good use of our time as a team, or a 1 calls it wasn't. We're hoping for a 10 because we named the podcast all 10s. So, awkward. But anyway, talk to you next time, Joshy. Thanks so much. Good talking.
Bye, Clay.
Bye.